So beginning in that comfortable child's pose, if you need any props around you, if you need a cushion, feel free to bring in a cushion. Always like to bring in some softness for the class. If you're like me and just love a bit of restorative yoga, sometimes it's nice to place a cushion underneath the seat for child's pose, or you can place something underneath the knees or the forehead. Basically utilizing whatever you have in your environment to get yourself set up for the class today. And we're going to begin here. So if you're newer to these classes, our child's pose, we come from a kneeling position, draw the knees apart to a comfortable position, opening the hips, and that's going to allow our belly to lower down towards the ground. Nice release for the lower back here as we stretch the arms over our head and reaching the fingertips long. Maybe relaxing the arms to take a bit more softness to this posture. Before we start moving into effort, let's start with a little bit of effortlessness. Taking a moment to meet yourself where you are at on this rainy Thursday. Apologies to anyone if it's sunshine, but I think the whole country has this weather at the moment. And just allowing yourself to meet whatever is here with a little bit of openness. Taking a few deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth. Just starting with a gentle release. Perhaps as you inhale, you start to feel your breath drawing away from the chest and more into the lower lobes of the lungs, the lower back, feeling the rib cage expand. And as always through today's class, everything that's on offer is an invitation and not a demand. So I invite you to listen to the options that I offer. And feel free to challenge yourself, but notice when the ego overtakes you and you're throwing yourself at something that you don't feel stable practicing, that doesn't serve you ultimately. And don't feel pressured to take that. Feel the option to let go of that expectation and to move in a way that feels good for you and your body on this Thursday. And let's begin to move our bodies from here. So start to pick up the head, press the fingertips down, and start to wander the fingertips over to the right-hand side. We're going to perhaps stack the left hand on top of the right to do this and lower the forehead back down again. And I want you to feel this nice expansion down the left side of the body. Use your breath to help facilitate this expansion, to feel into this shape. So as you inhale, breathing into the left side of the lungs, expand the rib cage. Exhale to soften. Take 3 more breaths just like that. You can make this as active as you would like. And take 1 more inhale. And as you exhale, start to walk this time the hands over to the left-hand side. Maybe this right hand stacks on top of the left, forehead lifts and then drops back down. Your choice as to how far you take this over to the left side. Looking to find this nice arc from the right fingertips down into the right hip. So try to draw that right hip back. Take 3 breaths to expand into this shape, to expand into the side body, the shoulders. And then slowly start to return your way back through center. And let's begin to pick up ourselves to a tabletop position from here. Stacking the shoulders over the wrists, the knees under the hips. Begin to move. Taking a deep breath in, dip the belly, lift the gaze. As you breathe out, tuck the tailbone, draw the chin to the chest. Taking our cat-cow movements here. Inhaling, dip the belly, lift the gaze. Exhaling, rounding. Feeling this movement in the pelvis and the shoulders here. So tilting the pelvis forwards on an inhale, and then tucking the pelvis on an exhale. Most of you familiar with this now, so feel free to move from here in any way that feels interesting to you, any way you are curious about. So for you, Sue, maybe you're focusing a little bit more on warming into the wrists. And if you want to do a little bit more warming into the wrists, I'll take you through some wrist warming from here. So keep moving in a way that feels good, or join me for a little bit more structured movement. If you're coming with me, you're going to come from your tabletop position, and you're going to start to move the fingertips to face the outsides of your mat, and you're just going to gently sway from side to side. So you can play with how much body weight you put over the wrists by bringing the shoulders forwards and back. And maybe you make some circular movements. Maybe you rock forwards, backwards. This feels good. You're going to take the fingertips and this time point them towards each other and begin to move once again. Forwards, backwards, circles. Last option from here is going to be to take the fingertips to point back towards the knees and start to gently draw the body weight forwards and backwards, probably a little bit more accessible than big circles, but just be mindful here. Not everyone's wrists can do this and feel comfortable all the same. Beautiful. Come back to your tabletop position. We'll all meet here. Tuck the toes and send your hips back onto your heels. So this might start to feel quite strong. So you are welcome at any point to untuck the toes, but I want you to see if you can bear with this intensity. As you bring the shoulders back, that's going to bring more weight through the feet, more of a toe stretch here. See if you can come with me to bring your hands out in front of you and start to open the hands like a little fist, stretching the fingers. And we're going to continue to move the hands in this way by increasing the pace. And as you do that, you're going to start to feel a warming in your forearms. So we're building both intensity in the feet and the forearms. And at some point, you might reach peak intensity. And see if you can take 3 breaths from that place, real intensity. If it's painful, let it go. Bearing with it for one more inhale. As you exhale, release. Bring the hands back down, untuck the toes. You might tap the feet from here. Tap the tops of the feet and then send the hips back to the heels. So once again, we're going to do a toe stretch in the opposite way, but if this isn't comfortable for you, just stay where you are, or take alternative. We'll take hands behind us and we'll see if we can lift our knees up to get a stretch through the front of the feet. Also intense. So you can moderate how much pressure you place through the feet by lifting the knees up any amount. Take one more inhale from where you are. As you exhale, come back onto your knees, resting on the heels. Take your hands into a figure 8 and just find a little bit of release by clasping the hands together and rotating through the wrists. So we'll aim to find a bit of oiling for the wrist joint from this place. Take the heels of the hands and press them away from you. Starting to feel a stretch between the shoulder blades here. Tuck the chin to the chest and take 3 deep breaths here. Draw the shoulder blades apart. So this can be just as much into the heels of the hands and the wrists as it is into the shoulders. Finding activity in both of these places. One more inhale. As you exhale, release. Come back into your tabletop position. Brilliant. Let's from here move into the hips a little bit. So from tabletop position, we're going to start to lengthen our right leg to the bottom of the mat. Tuck the toes. Take a moment to draw the body weight forwards and backwards. Feeling through the right hamstring. So press out through the right heel. Come back to stillness from here, and we're going to see if we can bend the knee and start to make some little circles through that right hip joint. So you might extend the leg and then bend the knee as you draw the knee around in a circular motion. This is really not overly defined in terms of how you should take this. Just want you to start to get some motion into your right hip joint. So maybe you change direction. Brilliant. From here, lengthen the right leg out behind you, nice and long, bend at the right knee, point the heel towards your ceiling. You're either going to hold it here, or if you want to come for a little bit more challenge, you're going to start to pulse that heel towards your ceiling. You're going to see if you can spend 5 breaths here. So you might inhale to extend the heel to the ceiling, exhale to lower, and it's not much of an extension, really subtle, but you'll start to feel that left glute firing up, I have no doubt. Let's spend another 2 breaths here. Brilliant. From this place, draw the right knee out to the right side and kick out the right foot. So we're going to come into a gate posture. So our right foot is in line with our left knee. And this is going to allow us to press into our left hand, lift our right arm up towards the sky. Big breath in, reach the right fingertips up. We'll begin to rotate the chest from here. Brilliant. On your next exhale, lower the right hand down towards the ground. And we're going to see if we can this time pick up the left arm. Now, you might not be able to get the chest quite as open, but you're going to lift that left arm up. And then as you breathe out, you're going to bend the right elbow and draw the left arm underneath the right armpit. As you inhale, untwist, lifting the arm out to the side or up. As you exhale, thread the arm underneath the opposite armpit. And you're not looking to get all the way to the floor necessarily. You're just going to move in this way for another 3 breaths. Maybe getting a little bit lower. If this really isn't working for you, then you're going to do this from a tabletop. So letting go of that right leg being extended and coming onto the right knee. Because there's going to be the option for us to hold this shape. So the next time you thread the left arm under, you're going to see if you can place the back of the left hand to the ground, and maybe you drop onto that left shoulder. So once again, if this isn't working for you, and for some bodies this really just doesn't work, you bring the right knee to the mat and you come into this shape from kneeling. But the option is there to come from this shape and to just move a little bit if it feels good into that left shoulder, feeling a stretch down the back of the left shoulder. So sometimes I come onto the toes here, bring the body weight forwards, back. It's very subtle. This right hand is supporting you. Can help moderate. If you want to, you can release the support, come to stillness, and maybe thread the hand behind the back to catch that left thigh, or extend the right arm out in front of you. Let's be here for 3 more breaths, giving you plenty of options there. So I've no doubt that you're all in a plethora of different entanglements. On your next exhale, we'll release. So start to bring your right hand back underneath the right shoulder to draw yourself back up, left hand to the ground. From where you are here, send the right knee back to the mat, find your tabletop, take any little wiggles and jiggles to release any little knots that you've got from that right side. And then let's take it to the left. So left leg extends to the bottom of the mat, tuck the toes, gentle rock forwards and backwards, pressing through the left heel. From where you are, start to lift this left leg up into the air, bend at the knee and find some rotation through that left hip joint. So you draw the knee out to the side, little fire hydrant variant, and rotate through the hip socket, taking it in one direction, then the other. Once again, we're not dogmatic about what this needs to look like. I just want you to feel into the motion of the hip socket. From where you are, come back to stillness, extend through the left leg, bend at the knee, Heel points towards the ceiling. You're going to stay here, or you're going to start to lift and lower that left heel. Keep the core engaged, and we're not looking to create a banana back here. So try to tuck the core in, creating a nice, neutral, stable position for that spine. Let's take 3 more breaths from where you are. And that pulse can be quicker if you want. If you're more familiar with a quick pulse, feel free to do it, but I prefer to move with the breath. Inhale to rise, exhale to lower. From where you are, start to bring the left knee out to the side, kick the left foot out to the side, and find that gate posture with the legs. So it looks like this, out to the side with the leg. Brilliant, but I'm not mirroring you. So if you're going the other way, then you're right. Perfect. From where you are, let's take a moment to lift this left arm up into the air. Right hand presses down, left fingertips reach towards your ceiling. Opening through the chest. One more inhale. As you exhale, we change hands. So left hand back down to the ground. Right arm opens. If you're like me, can't open very far here. So we're going to thread the right arm underneath the left armpit with our breath. Exhale, thread the right arm through, bend the left elbow. Inhale, open it back. Reaching the right arm to the ceiling. Exhale to bend and thread. Inhale to open. Take 3 more in time with your breath. You know what you're doing. If it's not working for you, if it's not serving you, maybe too tight in that left hip or left hamstring, bend the left knee and come onto the left knee. So you're doing this from a tabletop. The next time you thread the right arm through, see if you can lower the right shoulder to the ground. Left hand is supporting you. Maybe you stay here. Maybe you encourage a little bit of subtle movement if this shape helps to unlock it. Very subtle. And we're going to stay for another 3 breaths from this point. Your options are to stay with the left hand supporting you, finding stillness or movement, or come to stillness and extend the left arm out in front of you, or take the left hand behind the back to catch the right thigh. One more inhale. As you exhale, left hand down to the ground, unwind your body, right hand to the mat, left knee to the mat. Brilliant. And from this point, we're going to come into our first downward facing dog. So I want you to spread your fingers out nice and wide, thinking primarily to press in through the index finger and the thumb. Like all the fingers should be pressing down, but these are the 2 main ones. And that little finger as well. So you've got this real even pressure. Tuck the toes, lift the hips up into the air. Find your downward facing dog, your upside down V shape. And then feel free to do some movements from here. Maybe you sway the heels from side to side. Maybe you pedal through the legs. Maybe you sway the head. This is such a good stretch for the lower back, for the spine. So really utilize it by lifting those hips up and away from the hands. Brilliant. Come back to stillness in your downward facing dog. We'll meet there. Take a big breath in. Lift the right leg up into the air. As you breathe out, pull the knee towards you, set the right foot down in line with the hands and drop onto the left knee, untucking the left toes and finding your way to a low lunge. Brilliant. Find comfort here in your low lunge. If you want to go a little bit further, you're welcome to tuck the back toes and lift up into a high lunge. Maybe you feel ready for it. Maybe you don't feel warm enough yet. And we're going to be here for another 3 breaths. On your next exhale, left hand to the ground, right arm reaches up. Find a twist. Fingertips elevating, lifting out of this left shoulder. Brilliant. I want you to take 2 more breaths. And on your next exhale, hands come down to the ground. We're going to take it back through a little vinyasa. So we're going to tuck the back toes, lift the back knee. We're going to step back to find our high plank, pressing the ground away from us. Nice, strong core there to support the spine. And then you're going to exhale from here. You're going to drop to the knees and lower your belly down onto the ground. Take a big breath in, untuck the toes, lift the head and chest. As you breathe out, release the head and chest. Stretch the hips back towards the heels. And you're going to either spend 5 breaths here or you're going to rise back up to find your downward facing dog. Beautiful. So if you're not already in downward facing dog, start to make your way there. From downward facing dog, big breath in, left leg lifts up into the air. As you breathe out, left knee towards you, place the left foot down onto the ground, right knee to the mat, untuck the right toes for your low lunge. Extending through the sides of the body here, supporting the lower back maybe by a little tuck of the pelvis. That feels good. You can stay here, you can tuck the back toes, lift the back knee, come up into a high lunge. We've got 3 more breaths. Wonderful. On your next exhale, right hand to the ground, left arm to the sky to find a twist, extending through the left fingertips. Engage the core, use that core engagement to twist you round. One more inhale. As you exhale, hands to the mat, step back, find your vinyasa. If you're coming with me, you're stepping back to your high plank, finding a moment to press the ground away from you, and then lowering down either knees to the mat or knees lifted as you come onto the belly. Untuck the toes, big breath in to engage the back body and lift the chest for your back bend. Exhale to tuck the back toes. Stretch the hips back to the heels and find 5 breaths either in a child's pose or a downward facing dog. And when you are ready, we'll meet back in that downward facing dog. So start to rise for downward facing dog. Plant the hands down, hips high. Big breath in from this place. Lift the right leg up into the air. As you breathe out, pull the knee towards you. Set the right foot down in line with the hands. And we'll rise up for our high lunge here. Reaching through the sides of the body. Once again, finding what feels good here. If you don't feel challenged here, then you certainly can do. If you want to, maybe you bend a bit further into that front knee. Maybe you play around with that tuck of the pelvis to see what that does to a stretch down the left hip flexor. Maybe a pressure out through the left heel. It's not always about finding the most challenge. We also want to find what serves us. Take one more inhale from where you are. And as you exhale, we're moving to warrior 2. So left heel to the ground, opening the hips. Front leg stays exactly as it is. You can find a bit of movement here if that feels good, bending and straightening that front leg. When you're ready to settle in, arms to shoulder height, bend into that front knee, and gaze forwards, relaxing the shoulders and taking 3 deep breaths from this place. If you're familiar with the shape and it feels less than spicy, maybe you lift that front heel, maybe you lower it. There's always things we can do to find challenge if we want to, or intensity. From this place, come back to stillness in warrior 2. Take the right elbow to the right thigh. Lift the left arm up. Let's create a bit of motion in that left shoulder joint. So you're going to take 3 big circles in one direction and then 3 big circles in the other. You can do that really slowly if you want to come with me and feel how it feels in the side body through the chest as you slowly open. Come back to stillness here. We're going to hold our extended side angle. You're either going to come from here down to the ground or a block with the right hand, or you're going to stay where you are, or you might be working with the bind. If you're coming into the bind, right arm underneath the right thigh, left arm behind, open the chest. Option for bird of paradise if you want it. You gaze down towards that front foot, you bring the left foot in, maybe a little shuffle, changing your weight onto the left leg, lift the right, needs a really strong bind, and maybe you elevate through that right leg. You haven't got long here, so if you've taken that variation, you're going to start to transition back once you make it up. And we're going to all meet in our extended side angle variations to slowly unwind on our next exhale. So pick it back up to stand. From here, we're going to pivot back onto the ball of the back foot to find a lunge. And then either drop onto the left knee or keep the left knee lifted. The left hand is coming down to the ground. Right arm is lifted. So we did this on the ground earlier. You can drop back onto the left knee. Or you can come with me. If you're with me, you're going to see if you can engage the core. And even if you have the knee to the ground, you can do this option. You're going to try and lift through the right fingertips so much that you lift up onto the left fingertips. And that elevation maybe allows you to lift all the way up into a twisted lunge. Maybe right hand to the back thigh, left arm lifts for a twisted lunge reverse. I just made that up. Take 2 more breaths from where you are before we unwind. Exhaling to come down to the ground, hands to frame that front foot, moving through your vinyasa. So step it back, high plank of choice, maybe the knees are to the mat. As you exhale, lowering down all the way or halfway, stopping at the elbows. As you inhale, back bend, maybe it's an upward facing dog with the knees and thighs lifted. As you exhale, find downward facing dog or child's pose. You have 5 breaths. Take a moment to pause. Take a moment to take any movements you need, or to reconnect with your breath and your breathing if you find it feels a little bit wayward. And we'll meet back in our downward facing dog. So from downward facing dog, big breath in. This time we're lifting left leg high. As you breathe out, pull the left knee towards you, place the foot in between the hands, and pick your body up to find your high lunge. Once again, we've got a little bit of time here, so steady through the feet. Find the high lunge that serves you best. And that doesn't mean the most challenging. It means inquiring about these little tweaks that we can take to find what is going to serve us. Take one more inhale. As you exhale, right heel to the ground, front leg stays as it is so that we open the hips. Brilliant. Back foot can either be in line with the short edge of your mat, or you can tuck it in a touch, turning it slightly forwards. Hands might come to shoulder height. You can find a little bit of movement, bending and straightening that front leg, or you can hover in stillness. Gazing forwards, relaxing the shoulders. Maybe a lift and lower of that front heel as well. Take another 2 breaths from this place. And then left elbow to left thigh. Find the right arm reaching up to the ceiling. And we're going to see if we can take 3 big circles in one direction with that right arm. Intention is to feel into the shoulder. So you can even do this with the hand onto the shoulder joint if you're finding it a little bit clumsy to sweep the arm around in such a big way. And then find your way back to stillness. And we're going to hold our extended side angle from here. If you're holding in this shape, I want you to focus on reaching out of that left shoulder. So you're still picking the fingertips up into the air. If you're coming down, left hand comes down to the ground or a block, fingertips or hand. If you're finding the bind, you're going to bind around this part of the leg, not around the crotch, which I often see. So you're going to start to internally rotate that left shoulder, loop it underneath the left thigh. Right hand also needs to internally rotate in the shoulder, and then you clasp the hands together. If you're finding bird of paradise, you're bringing your gaze down to the ground, start to walk the back foot in. So you have to lean the body weight into the left foot, and then you change. You bring the body weight into the right foot, and you lengthen up towards standing. Brilliant. And then maybe the leg extends, maybe it doesn't. Whatever you do, it's cool with me. Start to release if you're in this shape, and we're going to come all the way back out the way we came. So take it nice and slowly back through your extended side angle, rising back to find warrior two. And then let's find our lunge. So gaze forward, pivot onto the ball of the back foot, take the right hand down to the ground. Maybe at this point you drop onto the right knee, or you keep the right knee in the air. Left arm extends for a twist. Turning towards the left side. Press pressure down through the feet and rise up through the left fingertips, squeezing the core. Many more of you can do this than think. Finding a twisted lunge perhaps. Maybe left hand to back thigh, right arm reaches up for a little reverse. Take one more inhale. As you exhale, release. Spiral the hands down to the ground. Take your vinyasa of choice, whether you're coming down all the way, halfway, big back bend, small back bend, no back bend. Make your way either to child's pose or downward facing dog. Brilliant. And we're going to have 5 breaths to ourselves here. And from this place, we're going to move through a little bit of standing balance before we melt our way down onto the mat. So if you're not already in your downward facing dog, start to head there. And from downward facing dog, start to really slowly pad the fingers back, the hands back, to bring your body weight into the legs, meeting us in a forward fold. And from here, feel free to just move or find stillness with a little bit more weight into the upper body, letting the arms drop down, or maybe taking opposite hands to opposite elbows. Trying to release some tension through the neck by gazing to the knees or the back of the mat. We'll take 2 more breaths here. And then slowly start to release, pick it up to stand, uncurling the spine. Make your way up to a tall standing mountain pose. Turn the palms to face forwards and allow the shoulders to relax. And then allow the hands to relax, the arms to relax. So from this place, we're going to do a little standing balance. So if you want to come onto or near to a support, you can take your left hand to a support, demonstrating with a radiator here, but that might be a chair, a table, a wall. We're going to start by balancing down through the left side. So I will mirror you guys for this one. So we're going to press down through the left leg, pick up all the left toes, place them down. Engage this left quad by lifting the kneecap. Left hand to left hip, right knee lifts into the air, and you're going to take right hand to right knee, or you're going to take right hand to the big toe of the right foot. So you might loop the first 2 fingers around your big toe. Now engage the core here, thinking about elevating through the crown of the head, not leaning backwards. We think about where our core and our spine is most stable. It's here. And then you're either going to lengthen the leg out, or you're going to keep the hand to the knee. Lovely. 3 breaths here. So if you're extending through the foot, you don't have to get the leg straight, but you're pressing through the heel and you're trying to keep that elevation through the crown of the head. You're going to take 1 more inhale. And as you exhale, knee or the foot comes out towards that right side. Standing up nice and tall, take 3 breaths from this place. Maybe you release the left arm to counterbalance you. And if you're wobbling, can you do it with a smile? Can we keep this playful? Even laughing at yourself as you hate it, maybe. Come back through center. You might come with me. You're going to bend the knee and change hands. So you might take left hand to that right knee, right hand back behind you. Or you might even take left hand to the outside of that right foot and extend the right leg again. 3 breaths here. Notice perhaps if you'd nailed your balance as we were facing forwards, now that you've changed the orientation, maybe you're wobbling a lot more here. Got to keep our brain active by challenging it. One more inhale. And as you exhale, come back through center. Release both feet. If you need to pedal out through the feet, pedal out through the hips. Maybe a wiggle and jiggle helps to do this. And then start to fold the body weight forwards, and we'll take a forward fold from here. So I want you to take your hands either to the calves, the ankles, or loop the big fingers, your peace fingers around your big toes. Big breath in to extend here through whatever bind that you have. As you breathe out, gently bend the elbows, use as much or as little pressure as you wish to draw the belly towards the thighs. And your knees can be bent here, but what feels good? You want to extend the head, the crown of the head towards the ground, rather than reach the forehead to the knees. This is going to help us to decompress our lower back. Help us try and find a bit of spaciousness through those discs. Take one more inhale. As you exhale, slowly start to release. And let's come back to stand for that balance work once again. We get to try it twice. So this time we're going to balance down on our right leg. So I want you to pick up the right toes, place them down. It helps us to focus on that solid foundation, the roots that we're placing down. Lifting through that right kneecap, engage the right quad. Start to take the right hand to the right hip, the left hand onto the left knee as you pick the leg into the air. So once again, draw the navel in. We want to avoid the ribs flaring. Navel draws in, crown of the head elevates. And then you're going to stay here or take that big toe bind if you're into it. Maybe you lengthen out. If you have a strap here, I used to teach this all the time with straps, but sometimes personally, I think it can get a little bit complicated and we often don't have long, but if you do have a strap or a belt at home and you want to practice this offline, obviously there's the recording and you've got a bit more time. You loop the strap around the foot and that helps you to find this shape. One more inhale wherever you are. As you exhale, we're opening the knee or the foot out to the left-hand side. Maybe this right arm releases. So if you've got that big toe bind, I want you to kick out through the heel and maybe you turn the heel in a touch so that you externally rotate the hip. You might find a bit more length if you do this. Brilliant. One more inhale. And as you exhale, you're going to let it go. Bring the leg through center. Change hands. Taking your right hand to that left knee, left hand back behind you. There's no shame in stopping halfway and taking both feet to the ground and then meeting me back in the air. Maybe you extend this left leg by taking the right hand to the left foot. 3 breaths. Once again, still think about elevation through the crown of the head and core engagement to support the spine. On your next exhale, let's let it go. Come back through center, feet to the ground. Any jiggles and wiggles, take them. We're going to take another forward fold. I've been spending the last 2 weeks forward folding because that compression in my lower back from driving has been a real stickler. So you're going to take another bind. So maybe you take a different bind. Maybe you take the ankles, maybe you take the feet, the big toes, or you're going to come with me for the funkiest of forward folds where we place one hand underneath one foot with the palm facing upwards, toes tickling the wrist crease, and then the other hand to the other foot. And maybe from here you bend the elbows, draw yourself deeper. And once again, you've always got that option to keep a nice softness to the knees. Let's take 3 more breaths from this place. As intense as you wish. How much activeness are you placing through that bind by bending the elbows? Activity, I think is the word. Activeness, I don't know. One more inhale. As you exhale, slowly start to release. Release the hands from where they are bound and start to make your way all the way up to stand. Reach the arms up over your head. Extend through the fingertips. Maybe you come with me to take the left first finger and the thumb around the right wrist. Extend up through the hand, leaning over towards the left side. And then take it to the other side. Little side body release. From where you are, let's make our way down to the ground. So we're going to come down through a little malasana. So walk your feet to the outer edges of the mat, turn the toes outwards 45 degrees and send the hips down. Trying to extend through the crown of the head once again here. Maybe the hands come to the ground, or maybe you come only halfway. Maybe your elbows come towards the thighs. Maybe you take the hands to a prayer, opening the knees, and you're going to spend 5 breaths here. If you want to move into crow, move into crow. Beautiful. Take 3 more breaths. Beautiful. Slowly starting to release from this point. Come down onto the knees. Take the hands to the ground. And let's make our way onto our back. So send the hips off, down to the ground. Sweep the legs forwards and start to recline onto the back of the body. Beautiful. Let's keep the knees nice and bent. Draw the hands down towards the feet. And let's gently sway the feet, or the knees rather, from side to side. We'll do a tiny little opening through the front body before we release down into our Shavasana. So come back to stillness, take the feet to hip distance apart, tuck the tailbone, pressure through the feet as you lift the hips, the pelvis into the air, finding supported bridge. This might look like what I'm doing here, or you might interlace the fingers. Find a grip with the hands and use that squeezing to help draw the shoulder blades underneath, or the shoulders rather, underneath the body to lift up higher. Take 3 breaths from where you are. Squeeze through the back body to support you. Ground through the quads. 1 more inhale. As you exhale, start to let it go. Uncurl the spine down to the ground. Feet to the outer edges of the mat, a gentle sway from side to side. Brilliant. We'll do that 1 more time. Bring the feet back to hip distance apart. Knees bent. If you want to take your full wheel here, feel free to. Taking the hands behind the shoulders, fingertips towards you. You lift the head up as well. If you're coming with me, tuck the tailbone. We come back to supported bridge. Maybe the hands interlace. Squeeze the back body. Brilliant. You can always find more intensity from this place by lifting one leg up into the air. Maybe slowly lowering it down. Changing sides. Maybe the other leg lifts into the air and you slowly lower it down. Take 2 more breaths wherever you are to finalize this back bend, this chest opening. And then slowly start to release, lower back to the ground. Walk the feet to the outer edges of the mat. Sway the knees from side to side here. And you might keep this movement going, or you might hover the knees off to the right side. Hold for 2 breaths. And then take the knees off to the left side and hold for 2 breaths. And if that's still serving you as a method of release, then keep moving in this way. But from here, I'm going to invite you to take any other movements that feel good. Because where we're eventually heading is to our Shavasana, our final resting pose. And when you're ready to come into that place, we want to find the place of least resistance, the place it takes the least effort to hold. And so that might be with your legs extended, maybe the feet wider than the hips, and letting the toes drift out. Maybe the arms down the sides of the body, the shoulders shuffling down the spine to release the neck. Closing down the eyes, if that's comfortable for you. And just feeling the eyes soften in your eye sockets. Your cheekbones softening. Your jaw softening. Notice when we think we're relaxing, often we can be holding on and gripping in places. Commonly, the shoulders, the forehead, the jaw. So bring this awareness of softening as you exhale. Cascading your awareness through your body and allowing that gentle release as you give these body parts permission. Permission to let go just a touch. Permission to feel supported and safe in order to do this. And holding yourself in this container for just a couple of minutes. And as you observe yourself wanting to leave this, notice that too. And see if you can remain nonetheless here, committed to resting, committed to training this state of restfulness in our body, which takes practice. Now, if you want to stay here a little bit longer, then I highly recommend you do so. Take as long as you have today. Take the afternoon off, I give you permission. But if you're ready to come with me to head towards 5 to 1 and all the other commitments we have, unfortunately, in our days, then we're going to start by bringing our awareness to the fingertips, the toes, and finding some really gentle movement here. Maybe a little bit of movement in the wrists, the feet. Take an inhale, reach your arms up over your head, perhaps point through the toes. Find a long body stretch, take up some space. And from this place, maybe you take a really small shape. Maybe you bring the knees in towards your chest and arms around the knees to hug yourself in tightly like an egg. Maybe your head comes to your knees as well. Full egg. And perhaps you allow yourself to marinate for just a moment in the juices of appreciation. So what is one thing that you are thankful for today? Nudging ourselves off into the rest of our day with these little positive sprinklings amongst all the negative sprinklings that we currently have. How can we work against the tide? So from where you are, we're going to make our way up to a seated position. You might draw yourself onto one side of the body to get there. We're going to slowly start to rise up. We're going to collectively pause together, seated. Perhaps you take a moment to feel this community, to feel the others that have joined us today. Feel gratitude perhaps for that. And perhaps heading off into the rest of your day with a little bit more lightness, a little bit more appreciation for the small little glimmers we have that are around us if only we look for them. And so thank you for your presence this lunchtime. Thank you for joining me. If you have any questions, just feel free to stick around on the call. If I don't speak to you after the class, I wish you a wonderful rest of your Thursday, rest of your half term if you're on half term. And I will see you again in 2 weeks' time. Thank you very much, everyone. And a happy belated Halloween. I didn't even get our Halloween playlist out. Missed opportunity.